CW. Hi. Thank you for popping in and joining. Just waiting for, I'm giving it a few minutes, waiting for a few more people to join us before I get started. Guess while we're waiting, where are y'all from? And is this your first time joining the reading? Welcome, welcome. Okay, well, I'm gonna get started. So we're reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. I usually pop on here Monday through Friday around 10 a.m. Today I'm kind of running late. Oh, interesting. Welcome. Is it Michelle? Welcome. So usually I'm on here Monday through Friday around 10 a.m. Today I'm running late because I had some errands this morning, grocery store, had to come back, put it away, yada, yada, yada. So I'm a little bit later than usual. But I have been uploading the previous chapters in our live sessions on YouTube. I'm pretty sure you can find it online just with my screen name on YouTube. So I think I started last Friday with the intro and chapter 1, and then Monday, Tuesday, we did chapters 1 and, what is today, Wednesday? Oh, we did intro and chapter 1 on Friday, chapter 1 on Monday, chapter 2 on Monday, chapter 3 yesterday, and then today's chapter 4. Took me a while. Okay. And like I had mentioned, the other sessions are uploaded now on YouTube, so you don't have to miss anything anymore, or you can catch up. Okay. Atomic Habits by James Clear. We are on chapter 4. The Man Who Didn't Look Right. The psychologist Gary Klein once told me a story about a woman who attended a family gathering. She spent years working as a paramedic, and upon arriving at the event, took one look at her father-in-law and got very concerned. "I don't like the way you look," she said. Her father-in-law, who was feeling perfectly fine, jokingly replied, "Well, I don't like your looks either." "No," she insisted, "you need to go to the hospital right now." A few hours later, the man was undergoing life-saving surgery after an examination had revealed that he had a blockage for a major artery and was at immediate risk of a heart attack. Without his daughter-in-law's intuition, he could have died. What did the paramedic see? How did she predict his impending heart attack? When major arteries are obstructed, the body focuses on sending blood to critical organs and away from peripheral locations near the surface of the skin. The result is a change in the pattern of distribution of blood in the face. After many years of working with people with heart failure, the woman had unknowingly developed the ability to recognize this pattern on sight. She couldn't explain what it was that she noticed in her father-in-law's face, but she knew something was wrong. Similar stories exist in other fields. For example, military analysts can identify which blip on a radar screen is an enemy missile and which one is a plane from their own fleet, even though they are traveling at the same speed, flying at the same altitude, and look identical on radar in nearly every respect. During the Gulf War, Lieutenant Commander Michael Riley saved an entire battleship when he ordered a missile shot down, despite the fact that it looked exactly like the battleship's own planes on radar. He made the right call. But even his superior officers couldn't explain how he did it. Museum curators have been known to discern the difference between an authentic piece of art and an expertly produced counterfeit, even though they can't tell you precisely which details tip them off. Experienced radiologists can look at a brain scan and predict the area where a stroke will develop before any obvious signs are visible to the untrained eye. I've even heard of hairdressers noticing whether a client is pregnant based only on the feel of her hair. Hey. The human brain is a prediction machine. Hold on a second. Okay. The human brain is a prediction machine. It is continuously taking in your surroundings and analyzing the information it comes across. Whenever you experience something repeatedly, like a paramedic seeing the face of a heart attack patient or a military analyst seeing a missile on a radar screen, your brain begins noticing what is important, sorting through the details and highlighting the relevant cues and cataloging that information for future use. With enough practice, you can pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Automatically, your brain encodes the lessons learned through experience. We can't always explain what we are learning, but learning is happening along the way, and your ability to notice the relevant cues in a given situation is the foundation for every habit you have. We underestimate how much our brains and bodies can do without thinking. You do not tell your hair to grow, your heart to pump, your lungs to breathe, or your stomach to digest. And yet, your body handles all this and more on autopilot. You are much more than your conscious self. Consider hunger. How do you know when you're hungry? You don't necessarily have to see a cookie on the counter to realize that's time to eat. Appetite and hunger are governed non-consciously. Your body has a variety of feedback loops that gradually alert you when it is time to eat again, and that track what is going on around you and within you. Cravings can arise thanks to hormones and chemicals circulating through your body. Suddenly, you're hungry, even though you're not quite sure what tipped you off. This is one of the most surprising insights about our habits. You don't need to be aware of the cue for a habit to begin. You can notice an opportunity and take action without dedicating conscious attention to it. This is what makes habits useful. So the chapter we read yesterday, we were talking about the different parts of habits that's required, that is part of every habit, that good habit, bad habit that has been formed. So the 4 parts is the cue, craving, the response, and the reward. So all those things exist. Now, once that's, consciously you would have to be aware of what the cue is, what habit you want to build or what habit you want to break. However, once it does become a habit, it's automatic. So that's kind of what all of this beginning of this chapter is saying, is that the cue, you could be mindful of it as far as what you want to do or what you want to build, but eventually the process of the habit becomes natural. It becomes part of your identity. It becomes normal. It becomes, it's something that you do on autopilot. And the fact that eventually it does kind of happen automatically, subconsciously, that is beneficial. So the habit formed is beneficial because now it's less work for your brain, to work through because it's on autopilot. So it's just the way it was described in the last chapter is that it relieves the brain. It frees up the brain to work through other new tasks or new projects or whatever. So the benefit of a habit, when it's automatic, relieves the brain of all that work of having to work through the new task, right? Okay, and I'm sure it's gonna break it down even better, but just wanted to pop in and talk too. So if you're new to the live reading, I like to, read a few paragraphs through, and it's all open for discussion. This is the whole purpose of me doing this live, is that we can discuss, we can agree, we can disagree, and that helps us, right? We don't have to debate or argue or be rude, but it does help us comprehend the book a little bit more, as opposed to, say, like audiobooks, which they're great. I love audiobooks. However, I feel like you can relate, because if you put an audiobook on while you're driving, while you're cleaning, doing dishes, sometimes the audiobook kind of just goes over your head, and it's just like about it again. This is the first time I've read it, so with y'all, I can't say too much about the whole thing, whether it's good or not, but so far so good, I would have to say. And again, today we're on chapter 4. So let me reread what I just said. You can notice an opportunity to take action without dedicating conscious attention to it. This is what makes habits. You not notice that you cover your mouth with your hand whenever you laugh, that you apologize before asking a question, or that you have a habit of finishing other people's sentences. And the more you repeat these patterns, the less likely you become to question what you're doing and why you're doing it. I once heard of a retail clerk who was instructed to cut up empty gift cards after customers had used up the balance on the card. One day, the clerk cashed out a few customers in a row who purchased with gift cards. When the next person walked up, the clerk swiped the customer's actual credit card, picked up the scissors, and then cut it in half, entirely on autopilot, before looking up at the stunned customer and realizing what had just happened. Another woman I came across in my research was a former preschool teacher who had switched to a corporate job. Even though she was now working with adults, her old habits would kick in, and she kept asking coworkers if they had washed their hands after going to the bathroom. I also found the story of a man who had spent years working as a lifeguard and would occasionally yell, "Walk!" whenever he saw a child running. Over time, the cues that spark our habits become so common that they are essentially invisible. The treats on the kitchen counter, the remote control next to the couch, the phone in our pocket. Our responses to these cues are so deeply encoded that it may feel like the urge to act comes from nowhere. For this reason, we must begin the process of behavior change with awareness. Before we can effectively build new habits, we need to get a handle on our current ones. This can be more challenging than it sounds because once a habit is firmly rooted in your life, it is mostly non-conscious and automatic. If a habit remains mindless, you can't expect to improve it. As the psychologist Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So that kind of, goes along the lines of, like I said, once a habit, becomes your identity, it's automatic, you run on autopilot, and that habit, it might be a good habit or it might be a bad habit, or it might be just a neutral habit, like, the example of which shoe you put on first or whatever. But the end of that was just saying, like, we have to be mindful. Because it's unconscious and you're running on autopilot, you're not thinking of what you're doing, and those things that you're doing constantly on a regular daily basis, it's either leading you, you're either building or hurting yourself. So, take the time to ask yourself, what do you do on a regular basis? What are your habits? Like once they become habits, we don't think about it, but it is good to take the time to stop and think. So one habit that I'm trying to build is, just to become a morning person. And I've noticed, even though it's only been like a week of me getting up early, and even having the habit of being on here to do reading with y'all, it's starting to be ingrained in me, and it's starting to be less of a chore or less of a struggle, because it is starting to become who I am as far as getting up early and getting things done. Today, like I said, I was running late to get on here, and I was kind of debating, like, oh man, I'm running late, like, okay, I missed today. But I was something about that wasn't sitting right with me, and I was like, no, yeah, I'm running late, who cares, whatever, but I still have to get my reading done, and I still want to do the TikTok live. So in that case, that's good. But again, it just, you have to be, like, I'm just going to reread it because that was said better than how I can explain it. But until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you'll call it fate. Welcome, Maurice. And be willing to make the change necessary. Absolutely. So when we're talking about habits, we're talking about good habits, obviously, but also recognizing what your bad habits are. And are you willing to make that change? Are you willing to, once you recognize it, put the effort in to make that change. Fortunately, we're constantly evolving every day. So if there is a bad habit, change it. You don't have to identify with it and say that's just who you are. You know what I mean? Like if you're struggling with something, or going back to my example about being a morning person, like I could just be like, that's not my thing. I'm not a morning person. I can't do it. But, or I could say, well, maybe I wasn't a morning person for a long time, but I can break that habit of sleeping in and create my routine and get into the morning, the habit of waking up early and getting ready for the day and being productive. And fortunately, that actually has freed up more time in my day. Like when I get up early, sometimes I could be done with all my tasks and my errands and projects and things, by early afternoon. And now I have the rest of my day if I so choose to have a lazy day. And now I can, finish the day and not feel guilty about not getting something done. Because back in the day, as of last week, when I wasn't a morning person, I would sleep in till like noonish, and then it would take me forever to even get started with my day, like having to eat and shower and dress, just those things. And then now I'm looking at 3 and 4 o'clock and I'm like, I feel gross because I haven't done anything, you know what I mean? So, I was like, this doesn't make me feel good. And it's not about like having this set, rigid schedule that can never be bent or whatever. But the irony is, once you do have a good routine and certain habits that kind of run on its own, it does free up more of your time. And you are able to treat yourself more and be productive, and then not feel guilty about having a lazy day or all day, every day. So, back to it. Okay, so, and this is a short chapter, which again, it's the universe has worked its way for me in my favor, because I was this close to canceling today and just being like, it's okay, I'll get back to it tomorrow. But I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. And even though I started late, the fact that the chapter's short still works out. So, all winning. The habits, the operator will point at the timetable and state the time. Out on the platform, other employees are performing similar actions. Before each train departs, staff members will point along the edge of the platform and declare, all clear. Every detail is identified, pointed at, and named aloud. What are those cats doing? This process, known as pointing and calling, is a safety system designed to reduce mistakes. It seems silly, but it works incredibly well. Pointing and calling reduces errors by up to 85% and cuts accidents by 30%. The MTA subway system in New York City adopted a modified version that is point only, and within 2 years of implementation, incidents of incorrectly berthed subways fell 57%. Pointing and calling is so effective because it raises the level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a more conscious level. Because the train operators must use their eyes, hands, mouth, and ears, they're more likely to notice problems before something goes wrong. My wife does something similar. Whenever we're preparing to walk out the door for a trip, she verbally calls out the most essential items in her packing list. I've got my keys, I've got my wallet, I've got my glasses, I've got my husband. The more automatic a behavior becomes, the less likely we are to consciously think about it. And when we've done something 1,000 times before, we begin to overlook things. We assume that the next time will be just like the last. We're so used to doing what we've always done that we don't stop to question whether it's the right thing to do at all. Many of our failures and performances are largely attributable to a lack of self-awareness. One of our greatest challenges in changing habits is maintaining awareness of what we're actually doing. This helps explain why the consequences of bad habits can sneak up on us. We need a point and call system for our personal lives. That's the origin of the habits scorecard, which is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. To create your own, make a list of your daily habits. Here's a sample of where you might start. Wake up, turn off the alarm, check my phone, go to the bathroom, weigh myself, take a shower, brush my teeth, floss my teeth, put on deodorant, hang up towel to dry, get dressed, make a cup of tea, and so on. Once you have a full list, look at each behavior and ask yourself, is this a good habit, a bad habit, or a neutral habit? If it is a good habit, write plus next to it. If it's a bad habit, write minus. If it's a neutral habit, write equal. For example, the list above might look like this. So on here, it's saying like, wake up, turn off the alarm is neutral. Check on my phone might be negative. Go to the bathroom is neutral. Weigh myself, take a shower, brush, floss, put on deodorant. Those are positive. Hang up towel to dry is neutral. Get dressed is neutral. Make a cup of tea is positive. The marks you give to a particular habit will depend on your situation and your goals. For someone who's trying to lose weight, eating a bagel with peanut butter every morning might be a bad habit. For someone who's trying to bulk up and add muscle, the same behavior might be a good habit. It all depends on what you're working towards. Good morning. Scoring your habits can be a bit more complex for another reason as well. The labels good habit and bad habit are slightly inaccurate. There are no good habits or bad habits. All habits serve you in some way, even the bad ones, which is why you repeat them. For this exercise, categorize your habits by how they will benefit you in the long run. Generally speaking, good habits will have net positive outcomes. Bad habits have net negative outcomes. Smoking a cigarette may reduce stress right now. That's how it's serving you. But it's not a healthy long-term habit. It's interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean most bad habits, right? Technically, the positive is that it could be giving you that immediate satisfaction. You know, like their example of smoking, it might feel good, right? But at the end of the day, overall, in the big picture, is it really helping you, is the question. If you're still having trouble determining how to rate a particular habit, here's a question I like to use. Hi, welcome. Does this behavior help me become the type of person I wish to be? Does this habit cast a vote for or against my desired identity? Habits that reinforce your desired identity are usually good. Habits that conflict with your desired identity are usually bad. So far, I guess this chapter is just, telling us that whether you're trying to break a bad habit or build and start a new habit, you have to know where you're starting from. You have to know what are your current habits. What are the habits that you're dealing with right now? And again, when habits become so automatic, we don't think about them. We are not aware of what these habits are, whether they're good or bad habits that we're doing every day. So take the time to be mindful. Be aware of what you're doing, whether it's, just your habit of, I like to take a shower in the morning before I do anything, or I like to do the dishes at this time, or, just all the mundane habits, your routine. If you can be aware of that, I'm sure you can pinpoint what is actually serving you or what's not. Some of the habits that we might relate to would probably deal with our phones, right? Like we constantly check it. Now, when are you checking it? And how long are you checking it? Are you just checking it because you're like sitting on the toilet, you know what I mean? Or are you checking it first thing in the morning and now you're laying there for 30 minutes pass by just because you're scrolling? Now, being mindful, you pinpoint that, but go a little further. What are you getting out of it? Are you getting motivation? Are you getting some direction? Or is it just mindless scrolling and you just killed 30 minutes of your morning time before you even got out of bed? You know what I mean? So you just got to be a little bit more mindful to see if those habits are serving you. Are they leading to, you know, long-term positive or, you know, not. So, oh yeah, the morning checks. One thing I'm trying to do, fortunately the morning checks, I've actually done less of now that the kids are back in school, because once, you know, I'd rather get in a few extra minutes of sleep before I get up to get the kids ready for school. So I don't really have that time like I used to lay in bed and look at it. But I did recognize that I was also looking at my phone before bed, because, you know, you're just laying there and you're like, well, let me check my phone. So that's one thing I'm trying to cut down on, as far as checking my phone before bed, just because I feel like my mind is still wound up, and, you know, I'm trying to get better sleep, yada, yada, yada. So, all right. Hi, Michael in Jamaica. Welcome. So, again, it's just saying to do a habit scorecard, which is pretty interesting. I'm going to try to do that and see what do I do regularly that I don't really think about, you know? Thank you for sending likes, Mark Motors. Where are we at? As you create your habit scorecard, there's no need to change anything at first. The goal is to simply notice what is actually going on. Observe your thoughts and actions without judgment or internal criticism. Don't blame yourself for your faults. Don't praise yourself for your success. So that's kind of like, don't overwhelm yourself. Step one, just write it all down. Be aware of what they even are. So that's the first step, because how are you going to dissect them if you can't get through the first step, right? So let's not overwhelm ourselves with tasks quite yet. So step one, this habit scorecard thing. I started doing a load of laundry whenever I was bored and picked up. Oh yeah. Whenever I was like, yeah, and I've noticed when I do that too, when I'm just like, oh, you know, I'm just waiting for the pan to heat up before I cook my eggs. Let me check my phone. And it's like, am I really getting anything out of that? So what I've been trying to do is I kind of try to schedule myself with the phone. So I'll just keep my phone away. Oh, one tip I will say that has helped cut my phone down, and I'm still on my phone a lot. And obviously we're in 2022, and if your work or job calls for you to be constantly on your phone, like, it's kind of hard to cut down, right? But for myself, I turned off all notifications on my phone, even text. I mean, my phone ringer is on, so if it's super important, you're probably gonna have to call me. If it's just a text, you're gonna have to wait until I check my phone and check my text. Even, you know, I have so many apps on my phone and social media platforms that I'm on that it would just take over my life, you know? And I'm still working on it. I'm not saying I've mastered that yet, but that is a tip I would suggest, is at least turn off your notifications on like your social media apps. Because I mean, if someone comments or whatever, you don't have to immediately reply right that second. So, you know, get those never ending. So throwing in the laundry, putting it in the dryer, taking it out the dryer, folding it, putting it away, organizing it, hanging it, ironing it. It's like just never ending. And by the time you do any of that, you have a whole new load to go through, right? So yeah, that would be cool, is if you're, you know, you have a little bit of empty space time, and you're just trying to kill time, kill it with something more positive or more productive maybe, right? If you've been on my live or know me, you know I've always said I have a love-hate relationship with social media. So I just feel like social media is so sneaky with our time. It takes up our time without knowing. Like I said, you could just be on it and then now, how did 30 minutes pass by, you know? So I think that should just be something that should be scheduled instead of something to be used to fill in your free time. Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure I have all my notifications turned off except my phone ringer. Even my text messages, I don't want to hear the beep, because that's like you, what is it called? Conditioning yourself to like jump at every time you get a beep. You jump and be like, what is it? You know, and like I said, it's sneaky because you check that text message, you reply, that's cool, but now you're like, well, I'm on it, let me pop into here, let me pop into this app, let me, you know, sneaky. So, okay, going back, it was just saying to do the whole habit scorecard. So literally write down your day, break it down to the most mundane. I mean, they broke it down to like flossing your teeth, or, you know, your daily chores, or maybe do you have a habit of stopping by the gas station on the way to work, or, you know, maybe you have a habit of when you're waiting for files to load on your computer, like what are you doing during that time, right? So just writing, being aware, being mindful, so you know where you're at, and then you can dissect it later. But step one, just write it down. If you eat a chocolate bar every morning, acknowledge it, almost as if you were watching someone else. Oh, how interesting that they would do such a thing. If you binge eat, simply notice that you are eating more calories than you should. If you waste time online, notice that you are spending your life in a way that you do not want to. The first step to changing bad habits is to be on the lookout for them. If you feel like you need extra help, then you can try pointing and calling it on your own life. Say out loud the action that you are thinking of taking and what the outcome will be. If you want to cut back on your junk food habit, but notice yourself grabbing another cookie, say out loud, I'm about to eat this cookie, but I don't need it. Eating it will cause me to gain weight and hurt my health. So that sounds silly, but again, being mindful, because all that stuff is just automatic stuff. Like you could just be sitting and you just happen to have a bag of chips and cookies there, and you're just like watching TV. So you're not, speaking of being mindless with that habit of eating, I mean, there have been times that like I'm watching TV and I'm eating a bag of chips and I'm just watching and eating, and then it's like I look down and it's like empty. And I'm, you know, it's kind of like, did I do that? Was that me? I don't remember, you know, the process of me eating it and now the bag, you know. So again, we become mindless as opposed to being very intentional. So if you realize that's your habit, then maybe don't grab a whole bag, like grab a bowl and put what you want to eat in it and then go from there. So it's just being mindful and intentional, because otherwise when it's on autopilot and it's all subconscious, it's just going. And the thing is, now the train or this car, this vehicle, this habit is going off a cliff or is it going, you know, down a nice road into the sunset? Like, where is it going? It's going regardless. If it's on an autopilot, where is the direction, you know? Okay. Hearing your bad thoughts or bad habits spoken aloud makes the consequences seem more real. It adds weight to the action rather than letting yourself mindlessly slip into an old routine. This approach is useful even if you're simply trying to remember a task on your to-do list. Just saying out loud, tomorrow I need to go to the post office after lunch, increases the odds that you'll actually do it. You're getting yourself to acknowledge the need for action, and that can make all the difference. And that's true. I mean, there have been times that I say it out loud, and then it does solidify that task. So, because just our brains, I mean, I forgot how many thoughts can happen and how many processes and, you know, things can happen in your brain like in a minute, in a second. So sometimes you can think something and it just goes away and you forget it. Versus if you think it and now you did the extra step of saying it out loud, it does kind of solidify it and make it more real. So like, for example, me, you know, I had I had to do groceries early this morning before my daughter went, well, when my daughter went to school, I had to go do groceries immediately. And again, I could just think that and be like, okay. Or I could be like, I'm getting up early and I'm going to the store. You know, and that's just, like I said, it sounds silly, but that one step does make it a little bit more real. Howdy, howdy. Thank you for joining. And the cool thing about this book, like I said, sometimes it seems real silly, real basic, real common sense, but it's all about these reminders, just these little things that we have to, you know, just to be mindful and remember, and in order for us to implement them, right? We all know, like, it's good to build good habits, like, duh. But do we ever take the step to even know what habits we're even doing now? You know, like, how do you build new habits or break bad habits if you don't even know what habits you are doing or what habits are happening in your life right now? So, easy peasy, right? So, take the time. If it's here. Oh, well, thank you for letting me know. I haven't gotten any notification about my service as far as it's slowing down. But let me know if it's doing anything else. So hopefully we're good with the connection here. Because if it's like super bad, then maybe I just have to restart it or something. But we are almost done with this chapter, so far so good. And it's good timing because my son just woke up, so. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. Strategies like pointing and calling and the habits of Scorecard are focused on getting you to recognize your habits and acknowledge the cues that trigger them, which makes it possible to respond in a way that benefits you. And now we're already at the chapter summary, so hi, Poots. Good morning. I'm almost done, okay? And then, you hungry? Okay. Well, I'm almost done. Chapter summary. Oh, sorry, guys. Don't eat all those cookies. See, I did all the groceries. I only put away like the meats and the things that were frozen and you needed to put it away. Okay, so far, okay, I'm guessing our connection is good enough to at least wrap this one up. Okay, chapter summary. With enough practice, your brain will pick up on the cues that predict certain outcomes without consciously thinking about it. Once our habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we are doing. And again, by definition, habits are automatic and they, they're things that become autopilot. And that's kind of a good thing or a bad thing. It's a double-edged sword because if it's a good habit, now you're just this well-oiled machine, right, that's running and going in the right direction. But if there's a bad habit that you're not even aware of because it is subconscious and automatic now, obviously that's now the machine or the car that's just headed towards the cliff. Shh, Lion, hold on. I'll hold on. I'll show you all that stuff. There's a bunch of cookies and things I got in the grocery store and I didn't put it away before he woke up. Hey, Devin! And as far as if you missed anything, I am gonna post and upload all my live sessions onto YouTube. So, Maymay TV on YouTube, it'll all be there if you ever missed anything. And I wonder if, once I upload it, if it'll show if I had bad connection or if it's glitchy, but I guess we'll find out. Okay, so once our habits become automatic, we stop paying attention to what we're doing. The process of behavior change always starts with awareness. You need to be aware of your habits before you can change them. So that's going to that habit scorecard that they were mentioning. Pointing and calling raises your level of awareness from a non-conscious habit to a more conscious level by verbalizing your actions. The habit scorecard is a simple exercise you can use to become more aware of your behavior. Well, like I said, that was a pretty short chapter. I think that chapter, you know, overall was just about being aware of what our current habits are. And then it kind of gave us some tips, like writing them down, doing the plus minus equal sign, the pointing and calling, verbalizing certain habits and actions. So yeah, so, well, thank you for your support and popping in, even just for a bit. I appreciate you. And yet again, another successful live session. Everyone was positive. Thank y'all to, you know, the ones that contributed to the conversation. That's super cool. Like I said, I am gonna have this uploaded onto YouTube. So if you missed anything or want to catch up, or even the past chapters, all good. So it'll be on Maymay TV on YouTube. I'll pop in again tomorrow for chapter 5. Tomorrow, hopefully 10 a.m. That's kind of the time I shoot for. Today I was running a little late, but nevertheless, I still showed up. So pat on my back. And yeah, hopefully y'all have a beautiful day. Thank you again for all the positive vibes, the support. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Oh, cool. Oh, okay. I remember the username you told me. See, I'm glad you told me. So now I know who I'm looking for and who's in here. So yeah. Okay, bye guys. I know I have the most drawn out goodbyes, but thank y'all again. See y'all tomorrow, and check YouTube if you want to catch up on anything, and I'll